At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI garbage. What's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it this way. I'm Daniel Pierce. Now, let's begin. Diplomacy, Cal Ferrara thought, is just chess where the pieces bleed. The debriefing room on the Aegis carried the sharp metallic bite of sterilized air and the faint, sour tang of desperation. Across the polished table sat Ambassador Tevesh, a Quellan whose translucent skin revealed the intricate, branching network of his circulatory system. The vessels near his temples throbbed in a rapid, agitated rhythm Ferrara had learned to read like a polygraph.
The Valkosh raider damaged 3 of our orbital processes,
Tevesh said. His voice carried the wet resonance of a creature evolved underwater.
Your convoy was the target, Deputy Secretary, but we bore the cost.
Ferrara leaned back. He wore a charcoal suit creased to a razor's edge, a suggestion of severity without ostentation. His hand stayed flat on the table. The Concordat will compensate you for the damage, he said. Full replacement value plus a 10% goodwill adjustment. A wave of darker fluid pulsed through Tevesh's capillaries. Surprise, then a slow return to his baseline coloration as he processed the offer.
That is generous.
We also request an addendum to our existing trade agreement. Priority passage rights for our non-military logistical convoys through the Quellan system. The ambassador's circulation seemed to slow, the throbbing in his veins slowed to a steady beat. Ferrara waited. He could spend hours waiting, years if needed.
Your cargo vessels would have unrestricted access.
Logistical support only. Medical supplies, construction materials, food shipments to our outer colonies. We'd share our traffic coordination algorithms as part of the arrangement. They're becoming the galactic standard for inter-system logistics. Ferrara pulled a data chip from his pocket and slid it across the table. This contains the specifications. Tevesh picked up the chip. His auxiliary fingers, the small ones near his wrist, trembled slightly.
I will need to consult with my government.
Of course, take your time. But Tevesh wouldn't take much time. The Quellans needed those processors back online. They'd agree, sign the addendum, and integrate the human 6 into their orbital infrastructure. Another piece moved on the board. Ferrara stood. Thank you, Ambassador. As always, it's a pleasure working with you. After Tevesh left, Ferrara remained standing, staring at his reflection in the window. Beyond the reinforced glass, Earth hung like a blue marble against the star-dusted sky. 81 years of handshakes and treaties. 81 years of turning the other cheek while predators tested humanity's resolve. He was tired of chess. The holographic plot table on the Defiance's bridge rendered the raid in sterile geometry, and Fleet Admiral Kira Carmen wanted to break something. Red spurs marked the Valkosh ships as they raked the human freighters with plasma fire. Blue vectors showed the convoys scattering, their drives flaring in panic. Green dots, her ships, held position at the system's edge, weapons cold.
Ma'am, the Talon is requesting permission to engage,
her executive officer said. Cormoner Kellan stood at her shoulder, spine locked, his jaw tight enough to crack teeth.
Denied,
Carmen said.
Captain Hu is asking again.
Tell Captain Hu, if she breaks ROE, I'll bust her down to inside and make her scrub waste recyclers for the rest of her career. The Valkosh raiders finished their run and rended away, their FTL signatures spiking on the sensors like middle fingers. The freighters limped toward safety. 3 had taken hull damage. 1 had lost its entire forward cargo section. Kellan let out a long, sharp breath.
Admiral, with respect.
I know, Commoner. Carmen gripped the edge of the plot table. Her knuckles were scarred from years in zero-G boxing rings, back when she had been young and angry instead of old and angry.
How many incidents this month?
7 confirmed raids, 12 if you count harassment.
Casualties?
43 wounded, 2 dead, both from decompression when the cargo hauler lost integrity. Carmen pulled up the raid report and flicked through data. Valkosh Imperium, 4th Conquest Fleet, operating under War Marshal Hakar Vrem. The bastard had a pattern. Hit the softest targets, avoid direct engagement with military assets, crow about Valkosh supremacy. The captains are fraying, Killen said. Sooner or later, one of them will fire back. I know. What do we do? Carmen closed the report. We wait, and we document everything. She looked at Earth through the viewport. 81 years of waiting. The courtesy doctrine had kept humanity safe, built alliances, secured trade. It had also turned her fleet into a leashed dog that could only bark while the real assets, the ones with silent drives, sat waiting in the dark. One day, she thought, someone will slip the leash. The emergency chime cut through Ferrara's meeting like a scalpel. He was in the Azure Annex with the Concordat High Council, discussing tariff adjustments with the Drin Cooperative. Councillor Hayes was mid-sentence when the sound hit, 3 sharp tones that meant priority alpha. Ferrara's tablet lit up. He glanced at the message and felt a knot of ice form in his gut. "Excuse me," he said, standing. "I need to take this." Hayes frowned. "Deputy Secretary, we're in the middle of... This supersedes tariffs." Ferrara left the room and walked to the nearest secure terminal. He plugged in his credentials and opened the file. The header read, "Distress Call, Odyssey's Dawn Convoy, Seraphim Nebula." He played the recording. Static first, then a voice, young and cracking with fear. "This is Morning Star, civilian transport. Terran registration 946 Echo. We're under attack. Valkosh Dreadnought. We've powered down. We're showing surrender protocol, but they're still... The feed cut to a visual. Ferrara saw the colony ships, their drives dark, their hulls painted with the Concordat's blue and white, unarmed, helpless. The Valkosh Dreadnought filled the frame, a wedge of crimson plating and gun batteries. Its forward cannons lit up. Plasma bolts struck the lead transport. The ship shredded, atmosphere venting in a cloud of frozen vapor and debris. A second bolt hit the next ship, then a third. The voice came back, younger now, screaming.
"They're firing on the children! They're firing on the children! Oh, God!"
Static. Ferrara stood alone in the terminal room. The only sound was the station's life support, a low hum no one noticed until it was all that remained. He played the recording again, then a third time. 15 ships, 4,000 colonists, 300 children. Gone. He closed the file and walked back to the Azure Annex. The counselors looked up expectantly. "Reconvene in 30 minutes, Ferrara said. "We have a situation." The emergency session filled the council chamber within the hour. 12 counselors sat around the horseshoe table. Ferrara and Carmen stood at the center, a holographic display between them showing the wreckage in the Seraphim Nebula. Councillor Hayes had her head in her hands. Councillor Ortega slammed his fist on the table, cracking the surface. Someone was crying. Ortega's voice shook. "An act of war. A massacre." "We should file a formal protest with the Court of Oaths," Councillor Solari said. She was young, idealistic, and looked like she might be sick. "Impose sanctions. Freeze their trade access." Carmen made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Sanctions? Yeah, right." Solari turned to her. "Admiral, we can't just..." "Can't just what? Fight back? Why not? They murdered 4,000 civilians." "Because escalation..." Carmen stepped forward. The hologram's light painted her face in stark shadows. "They escalated. They've been escalating for 81 years. We've been taking it because the courtesy doctrine told us to smile and document it. Well, we've got documentation now. 15 dead ships. I can show you the bodies if you need more data." Solari flinched. Carmen didn't stop. "The Valkosh understand one thing.
False. They see all restraint as weakness. Every time we file a protest, every time we file reparations to another system they damage while attacking us, they laugh. They think we're a biological dead end. Too weak to fight, too scared to exist.
Admiral, that's enough,
Hayes said. Carmen met her eyes.
Is it?
Ferrara had been silent through the exchange. Now he stepped forward, his hands behind his back. Counselors, he said. His voice was perfectly level. The courtesy doctrine was created with two primary postures: the open hand, our pursuit of stable, collaborative peace through trade, mutual defense, and pacts and technology sharing, and the closed fist. The room went quiet. We designed the closed fist for the possibility that peace would fail, that some powers in the galaxy would only understand force. We've spent 8 decades building alliances and securing strategic resources. We've spent those same decades developing contingencies, kinetic impactors, signature masking, fleet-level doctrines they've never seen. We've been generous to the point of absurdity. He paused. And while we were generous, we were also preparing. The open hand is broken. With the Council's approval, I recommend we execute the closed fist. Now, in its entirety. Hayes stared at him. You're asking us to authorize war. I'm asking you to authorize survival. But the cost... The cost of inaction is extinction. The Valkosh will not stop. Neither will the dozen other predator empires watching to see if we fold. If we don't respond, if we continue to rely on diplomacy alone, we send a message that human lives are expendable. Or take a lean forward.
What exactly are you proposing, Deputy Secretary?
Ferrara glanced at Carmen. She nodded once. A pre-planned military operation designed to cripple Valkosh aggression in a single decisive strike. Fast, decisive, overwhelming. The kind of war that ends before they realize it's begun.
You've already planned this,
Solari said. I've planned for everything, Counselor. It's my job. The silence stretched. Finally, Hayes spoke.
Vote. All in favor of authorizing military action against the Valkosh Imperium under the Closed Fist Protocols?
12 hands rose. Not one abstained. For the first time in a decade, Ferrara took a full, unimpeded breath. He'd spent decades building toward this moment, hoping it would never come. It had come anyway. War Marshal Hacker Vrem received the report on his command deck with satisfaction. The deck occupied the highest level of the citadel of Karun Lok, a captured moon that served as the forward command of the 4th Conquest Fleet. Through the viewport, he could see his ships in orbit, their hulls catching the red starlight like wet carapaces.
15 human transports destroyed,
his second reported. The officer's plating was a lighter crimson, marking him as a lesser bloodline.
No survivors.
Hacker Vrem rumbled his approval. The sound resonated through his heavy, pillar-like legs up into his thick torso. His battle scars caught the light, badges of honor etched into his ossified hide.
The humans begged for mercy,
he asked.
They powered down their drives and transmitted surrender codes.
And we showed them the price of weakness.
His officers growled in agreement. This was the Valkosh way. Strength was everything. Compassion was a genetic defect. Pell, the tactical analyst, stood at the edge of the command deck. He was smaller than the warriors, his plating a dull gray that marked him as non-combatant caste. His job was to analyze data, predict patterns, provide threat assessments. Right now, his data concerned him.
War Marshal,
Pell lowered his voice. Might I present an observation? Hacker Vrem turned. His voice dropped to a low rumble.
Speak, analyst.
The humans have lost ships before, but never an entire convoy. They maintain extensive patrol networks. The Seraphim Nebula is sensor-baffling, yes, but their response patterns suggest they track fleet movements through other means. The statistical probability of them missing this attack is low.
Are you suggesting they allowed us to kill their own people?
I'm suggesting we may have been permitted to succeed, which raises the question of why. One of the officers laughed.
The analyst thinks the humans are clever. The analyst thinks too much.
Another said. Hacker Vrem stared at Pell.
Your function is to analyze data, not to question the spirit of a warrior race. The humans are weak. They have always been weak. They will file a protest with the educators, pay reparations to whatever systems we damage, and continue their pathetic attempts at peace.
Yes, War Marshal. Pell bowed his head. Hacker Vrem turned back to his officers.
Double patrols along the border. I want to see how they respond. Perhaps we'll be fortunate enough to provoke them into a real fight.
The officers growled their approval. Pell said nothing. He returned to his station and pulled up the human response data from previous incidents. Every raid, every attack, every provocation over the past 81 years. He ran it through his analytical models, looking for patterns. What he found made his plating go cold. The humans never escalated, never. They absorbed damage, filed complaints, paid reparations. Their military stayed leashed. Their diplomats smiled. But their logistical movements told a different story. Shipments that made no economic sense, trade routes that detoured through empty systems, technology gifts that seemed generous but required extensive integration with human design software. He cross-referenced the software signatures with systems the Imperium had recently acquired. One matched the civilian traffic control 6 running on Karun Lok, a trophy taken for the conquest of the Rylak's hegemony, a supposedly harmless program. Pell pulled up the data on the convoy. The Odyssey's Dawn had been traveling a known route, broadcasting its trajectory on open channels. It was practically begging to be attacked. He ran a probability analysis. The result was stark. The convoy's route, its open broadcasting, the timing, it was an invitation. It was a trap. Pell saved his report and flagged it as high priority. Hacker Vrem wouldn't read it. Warriors never did. He pulled up the vocal analysis of the human deputy secretary from their last diplomatic exchange, a recording from 2 years ago regarding a minor trade dispute. Farrar's stress markers had been within normal ranges, polite, patient, professional. Pell felt a premonition so strong he would have traded a decade of his life to analyze the human's next message. He didn't have to wait long. The broadcast went out on every emergency channel in the galaxy. Farrar stood alone in the recording room. No staff, no audience, just him, a camera, and the weight of 4,000 dead. He looked into the lens. His suit was immaculate. His expression was calm. To the Valkosh Imperium, this is the Terran Concordat. His voice was flat, devoid of passion, the tone of a man reading a casualty list. We have recorded your unprovoked and barbaric assault on our civilian convoy Odyssey's Dawn. Your attacks on our sovereign interests will now cease. He paused for exactly 2 seconds. This is our final request. End your attacks, or our courtesy ends here. The recording ended. No threats, no demands, just a statement of fact. Hacker Vrem's bridge received the message during a shift change. The communications officer played it on the main screen. Hacker Vrem watched the human speak, his tone flat, his face expressionless. When it ended, silence filled the bridge for 3 seconds. Then someone laughed. Another officer joined in. Soon the entire bridge was laughing, a rumbling chorus that shook the deck plating.
Our courtesy ends here.
Hacker Vrem repeated, his voice dripping with mockery.
Did you hear that? They're giving us one more chance.
Send a response. Tell them we...
Well, Marshal. Pell's voice cut through the noise. The laughter stopped. Hacker Vrem's massive head swiveled to face the analyst.
What?
I've completed a vocal stress analysis of the human. Pell pulled up his data on a secondary screen. His cortisol levels were baseline. No adrenaline spike. No variation in pitch or cadence. He exhibited the vocal flatline of a being who has already calculated the outcome.
So, the human is code, all politicians are.
No, War Marshal. He's not code. He's already decided. Pell highlighted sections of the waveform. Every other human we've recorded shows stress markers when delivering threats. This one didn't. That wasn't a threat. It was a declaration. Hacker Vrem stared at the analyst. Then he turned back to his officers.
Raise fleet to high alert, battle ready. Follow the book. If the humans want to posture, let them. We'll be ready.
Pell saved his analysis to his personal archive. He had a feeling he had needed for the historical record, assuming anyone survived to read it. The Revenant was nothing like the Defiance. Carmen stood on the bridge and felt the difference in her bones. No polished surfaces here, no decorative viewports. The bridge was a vault of gray metal and data feeds projected directly onto armored glass, designed for one purpose: killing. Her command chair had restraint harnesses. The crew stations were recessed into the bulkheads, providing cover in case of hull breach. The air smelled of machine oil. This was the Shadow Fleet, humanity's hidden hand.
All ships report ready,
Commander Killen said. He transferred over with her, along with her core staff. He looked around the bridge with the revenants of a pilgrim entering a hidden shrine. Carmen pulled up the fleet roster, 60 ships all told. 30 capital vessels, 20 destroyers, 10 corvettes. Every single one equipped with whisper drives that left no FTL signature. Every single one armed with kinetic weapons that could kill from beyond sensor range. 81 years of preparation, hidden shipyards, black-budget programs, technology developed in the dark while humanity smiled and played nice on the galactic stage. The courtesy doctrine had been a shield. The Shadow Fleet was the sword. Open a channel to all ships, Carmen said. Encrypted burst priority override.
Channel open, Admiral.
Carmen leaned forward. This is Fleet Admiral Carmen. You know why we're here. You know what we're about to do. For 81 years, we've held back. We've watched them kill our people, raid our convoys, balk our restraint. That ends now. She paused. Execute Directive Chimera. Silent running. 0 emissions. Hit your marks in 48 hours. Carmen out. The channel closed. Around her, the bridge crew moved without a wasted word or motion. Call signs were clipped, confirmations instant.
Admiral,
Kellen said. The Secretary's office is requesting confirmation. Carmen pulled up the comm. Ferrara's face appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable. Admiral, status. Directive Chimera is active. Will be in position in 2 days. No signature leaks. None. The whisper drives are performing beyond spec. Valkosh won't see us coming until the round's hit. Ferrara nodded. Good. I've sent out the political framework to the other powers. By the time you engage, they'll be too paralyzed to interfere. You think they'll stay neutral? I think they'll be smart enough not to stand between us and the Valkosh. Ferrara's expression didn't change. How are your people? Carmen glanced around the bridge. Her crew worked their stations, their movements economical and sure. Ready, she said. We've been ready for decades. Then Godspeed, Admiral. Show them what courtesy really means. The comm closed. Carmen sat back in her chair and pulled the restraint harness across her chest. Helm, take us out. Silent running.
Aye, Admiral.
The Revenant moved into the dark, followed by 59 ghosts. The listening post designated Outwatch 9 sat at the edge of the Valkosh space, monitoring for FTL signatures. 2 sentries manned the station. Their shift was boring. It was always boring. Nothing ever happened here except the occasional trade vessel rendering through.
I don't understand why we need to sit here,
the younger sentry said. His name was Kresh, and his plating still had the bright sheen of youth.
Because the War Marshal ordered it,
the senior sentry replied. Vok was old enough to have dulled plating and sharper instincts.
But the monitoring for what? The humans? They haven't moved a military ship in months.
That's what concerns me. Kresh laughed.
You think they're scared?
I think they're quiet. The sensors showed nothing. Empty space, background radiation, the usual cosmic noise. Vox stared at the display and couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something. The lights went out.
Power failure?
Kresh said in the dark. Vok was already moving toward the backup controls when he heard the sound, a soft hiss like air escaping, then movement in the shadows. He never saw what killed him. Kresh got his hand on a sidearm before something cold touched his neck. There was a brief pressure, then nothing. The lights flickered back on. 4 humans stood in the control room, dressed in matte black armor. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with no visible seams. The leader pulled out a device and plugged it into the main console. The station's comm array went dark.
Outwatch 9 secure,
the leader said into his comm.
Blinding complete.
A dozen other listening posts across the sector went dark the same way, within minutes of each other. The Valkosh sensor network died without a sound. Nobody knew. Nobody saw. The ghost had arrived. War Marshal Hacker Vrem stood on his command deck, reviewing patrol reports when the first message came in.
War Marshal, we've lost contact with Destroyer Squadron 8.
He looked up.
Comm failure. Unknown. Their last transmission was routine, then nothing. Send a recovery vessel to investigate.
Already dispatched. ETA 2 hours.
Hacker Vrem returned to his reports. Comm failures happened. Equipment degraded. It was annoying, but not concerning. 10 minutes later, another report.
War Marshal, the recovery vessel reports arriving at Squadron 8's last known coordinates. They're reading debris, extensive debris.
Hacker Vrem's claws dug into the console.
What? 5 destroyers? All destroyed. The debris field is expanding. Estimated time of destruction, 43 minutes ago.
Oh. We would have detected weapon fire, FTL signatures, something.
Sir, sensors show nothing. No energy signatures, no rending echoes. The destroyers just died.
Hacker Vrem pulled up the tactical display. Squadron 8's patrol route covered a standard sector sweep, nowhere near contested space. No pirates operated in that region, no rival empires.
Pell. Analysis.
The analyst was already at his station pulling up data. His plating had gone pale.
War Marshal, I'm cross-referencing with other patrol reports. Outwatch 7 through Outwatch 13 are offline. No response to hails.
Or listening post.
Dark. All of them. Simultaneously.
The command deck went quiet. Hacker Vrem stared at the display, watching his ships move through space.
Sound General Alert,
he said. The usual bluster was gone from his voice.
All fleets, combat readiness. Full sensor sweeps.
Yes, War Marshal.
Pell pulled up a timeline and overlaid it with the human ultimatum. 49 hours had passed since their message. They're here, he thought. They've been here the whole time. He started to speak, but the next report came in before he could.
Contact lost with Cruiser Division 4. Last transmission. Unknown weapons fire, extreme range. Then static.
Hacker Vrem watched the display as another icon blinked red, then gray. 6 more ships gone.
Where are they?
He roared.
How are they killing us?
Nobody answered. On the display, the gray icons multiplied. Ferrara sat in the command center of the Aegis, watching data stream across multiple screens. He wasn't orchestrating the battle. That was Carmen's domain. His war was different, political, strategic, making sure the galaxy stayed neutral while humanity reminded the Valkosh to behave. He pulled up the first set of messages he had sent 12 hours ago. The Drin Cooperative had received detailed tactical analysis of Valkosh fleet movements near their border, information that would have taken them months to verify, but would keep them busy questioning whether the Imperium was planning to expand in their direction. The Quellan sovereignty got evidence of the Odyssey's Dawn massacre, along with a polite reminder that the Valkosh had attacked Quellan orbital infrastructure by accident 8 times in the past 3 years. The Hexarchy received nothing. They were always neutral, but their intelligence services would be watching. Ferrara had made sure the Hexarchy's observer satellites had clear lines of sight at the engagement zone. Let them watch. Deputy Secretary, one of his aides approached. We're getting inquiries from the Court of Oaths. They're asking for clarification of the military action. Tell them we're conducting a limited punitive operation in response to an unprovoked attack on civilian vessels. Estimated duration, 6 hours. 6 hours, sir? That's what I said. The aide left. Ferrara pulled up the feed from Carmen's flagship. The Shadow Fleet had just fired its first salvo at extreme range, tungsten slugs traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. The Valkosh wouldn't know what hit them until the rounds arrived. Ferrara watched the timer count down. 300 seconds until impact. He'd been patient for 81 years. He could wait 5 more minutes. The first slugs hit Cruiser Division 4 at 0214 hours ship time. The Visions of Clan Moore took a round through its forward shield generator. The projectile annihilated the energy barrier, smashed into the armored hull, and detonated the generator's capacitor bank. The cruiser spun, trailing atmosphere and debris. The second round hit the Honor's Price, dead center, penetrating both shield layers and the reactor housing. The cruiser bloomed into a silent, expanding sun before vanishing. The remaining 4 cruisers tried to scatter, but the rounds were already in flight. 3 more hits, 3 more kills. The last cruiser, the War's Edge, managed to raise its shields to full power and angle them against the incoming trajectory. The tungsten slug hit at a shallow angle designed to deflect. The human 6 that aimed the round had calculated the deflection. A second slug arrived half a second later, striking the exact point where the shield had been weakened. The War's Edge died like its sisters. On the Revenant, Carmen watched the targeting data scroll past. 6 targets eliminated, 0 turns. Any sensor traces? Negative, Admiral. They never saw us. Kellen shook his head. They're dying, and they don't even know who's shooting. They will soon. Carmen pulled up the next target package. A full battle group, 40 ships, clustered around Hacker Vrem's command moon. Ham, bring us to firing position Alpha 5. Communications. Prepare to drop off signature mask on my mark. The Revenant cut through the dark, her whisper drive leaving no trace. Behind her, the rest of the fleet fanned out into a kill box. Harkham Vrem watched his fleet die in pieces. The tactical display was a massacre rendered in geometry. Gray icons multiplied, red alerts screamed, his ships scattered, firing at Ghost, hitting nothing. How many have we lost? He demanded. 20 vessels confirmed destroyed, 9 more damaged and retreating. And the enemy? No confirmed hits, War Marshal. Hacker Vrem slammed his claw into the console, cracking the screen. It makes no sense. We have 60 ships in the sector. How can we not hit them? Kellen lowered his voice. Because they're firing from beyond our sensor range. Our return fire is hitting empty space. By the time we detect their weapons, the rounds have already killed us. Then we advance! Close the distance! Advance where, War Marshal? We don't know where they are, said Pell. Hacker Vrem spun to face him. You're an analyst.
Analyze!
Pell pulled up the attack vectors, plotted the trajectories backward.
The firing solutions suggest they're using targeting systems with prediction algorithms far beyond our own. And their weapons are kinetic, not energy-based. Minimal signature until impact.
How do we fight them?
We don't. We survive. We withdraw to Karun Lok's defensive perimeter and hope the orbital cannons can cover us.
Every instinct in Hacker Vrem's body screamed against retreat. Withdrawal was shame. Shame was death in Valkosh culture. But pride was also death if he stayed out here.
Order all ships to fall back to Karun Lok. Shields interlocked. Bring us to station keeping behind the moon.
The fleet turned and ran. On Karun Lok, in the sublevel maintenance tunnels, 4 humans moved through the darkness. They had infiltrated the moon 3 hours ago using a seismic sensor conduit in a deep ravine. A geological blind spot intelligence had mapped 6 years prior. The route had been planned around orbital surveys disguised as routine trade vessel scans. The team leader, Sergeant Micah, held up a fist. The team stopped. Ahead, a security patrol. 3 Valkosh guards, their plating reflecting the harsh work lights. He watched them pass, then checked his chronometer. The sector's patrol drone was due for its 4-second diagnostic reboot. 3, 2, 1, now. Micah made a hand signal. His team spread out, each soldier moving from shadow to shadow without a sound, their armor making no contact with the metal grating. The guards died without making a sound. One moment they were walking the patrol route, the next they were on the ground, throats cut, eyes still open in surprise. Micah wiped his blade and kept moving. Their target was 2 levels down, the central server hub for Karun Lok's civilian traffic control system. The system that ran on human-designed software. The system whose network access had been carelessly bridged to the military defense grid by Valkosh engineers prioritizing convenience over security. They reached the server room without encountering more guards. Micah pulled out his intrusion kit and jacked into the main console.
How long?
His second asked.
3 minutes to upload the exploit. Another to arm it.
We've got 5 before the next patrol cycle. Micah worked in silence. He bypassed 3 firewalls with practice key combinations, tracing patterns on the haptic interface from muscle memory alone. The servers hummed around them, processing data, managing the orbital defense grid, tracking thousands of ships. All of it about to become a weapon.
Upload complete, Micah said. Arming now.
The exploit embedded itself in the targeting subroutines, invisible to diagnostics, waiting for the trigger command. When activated, it would feed false targeting data to the defense cannons, turning them against the Valkosh fleet.
Armed. Let's move.
The team extracted the way they'd come in, leaving no trace except for 4 dead guards who wouldn't be found for another hour. By then, it wouldn't matter. Hakkar Vrem's fleet reached Karun Lok's defensive perimeter with a quarter of his ships left.
Position us in the orbital defense zone,
He ordered.
Use the moon's cannons for cover.
The fleet formed up, their shields interlocking. The automated defense grid came online, 60 heavy plasma cannons tracking outward, searching for targets.
Well, Marshal, we're reading an anomaly.
What kind of anomaly?
An energy signature. Massive. Directly ahead. It's...
The Revenant dropped its signature mask 5,000 kilometers from the fleet. Then, the space beside her tore open as 9 more capital ships warped into reality like knives pulled from a wound.
Enemy vessels!
Pell shouted, his voice cracking.
10 capital ships, unknown class, shields active!
Hacker Vrem stared at the tactical display. The human ships were real, solid, close enough to hit.
All batteries fire!
The Valkosh fleet opened up, plasma bolts crossing the void in brilliant streams. The human ship's shields flared, absorbing some hits, deflecting others. Then something strange happened. One bolt struck a human cruiser's hull directly. Instead of penetrating, the impact point erupted outward, the armor itself detonating in a shaped charge that vaporized the plasma bolt.
What in the name of...
Harkham Vrem started.
Her armor explodes.
Pell said, his voice stunned.
It's reactive. It counters kinetic and energy weapons by destroying itself first.
The human ships returned fire. The Revenant's main gun was a spinal-mount accelerator that ran the length of the ship. It fired once, a single tungsten penetrator the size of a cruiser. The round hit Hacker Vrem's flagship shields. The ships held for 0.3 seconds. Then the round punched through, smashed into the forward hull, and exited out the stern. The flagship shuddered, alarms screamed, half the bridge displays went dark.
Reactor containment failing!
Someone shouted. Hacker Vrem grabbed his console to stay upright.
All power to shields! Return fire! Sir, the defense grid!
The orbital cannons, all 60 of them, pivoted in unison and targeted the Valkosh fleet. Harcum Vrem watched as his own defenses locked on.
What are you doing? Override that! Override now! The system is locked out! I can't override!
The cannons fired. Plasma bolts, each one powerful enough to crack a destroyer in half, rained down on the fleet. Ships died, their shields overwhelmed, their hulls breached. The defensive formation broke apart, ships scattering in every direction. Through it all, the human ships moved like predators, never wasting a shot. A comm channel opened. Hacker Vrem's screen showed a human face, older, female, with cold eyes, as final as a vacuum. "War Marshal," the human said, "your command well's defenses are compromised. I am Fleet Admiral Kira Carmen of the Terran Concordat. Surrender now. That is my courtesy." Hacker Vrem's voice was a low snarl.
A warrior of the Valkosh does not surrender.
Then a warrior of the Valkosh dies. The channel closed. Harcum Vrem looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead. His flagship was dying. The orbital cannons were destroying his fleet, ship by ship. He could surrender, live in shame, watch his clan be stripped of honor, or he could die like a warrior. He turned to his second.
Forward batteries. Full power. Target the human flagship. Sir, we want fire.
The Revenant saw the flagship's cannons charging. Carmen didn't flinch. "Main gun, fire for effect." The spinal cannon fired one last time. The tungsten slug crossed the distance in seconds. It hit Hakkar Vrem's ship, bow to stern, punching through the reactor housing on the way. The flagship came apart in a sphere of light that lit up Karun Lok's night side. Hakkar Vrem died without seeing the end. Ferrara received the confirmation at 0851 hours. Active combat phase complete. Valkosh 4th Conquest Fleet destroyed. Human casualties: 37 killed in action, 112 wounded. One corvette lost when a stray kinetic round pierced its reactor shielding, starting a chain reaction that tore the ship apart from the inside. He sat in his office and allowed himself a moment to close his eyes. 4,000 civilians dead. An entire fleet destroyed in response. The open hand had been replaced by the closed fist. He opened his eyes and pulled up a comm channel. The Valkosh High Command appeared on his screen. 3 war marshals, each representing a different clan. Their plating was immaculate, their postures rigid. They were also furious, though they hid it well.
Tehran Deputy Secretary,
the lead war marshal said. His voice was stripped of all inflection.
Your actions have caused significant loss.
Your war marshal Hakkar Vrem attacked a civilian convoy, Ferrara replied. His tone matched theirs, professional, detached. We respond in kind.
In kind? You destroyed an entire fleet.
Yes, and we'll destroy every fleet you send against us until you understand the message. Ferrara leaned forward. The Karun Lok sector is now under Tehran Concordat administration. You will see the system, pay reparations for the Odyssey's Dawn massacre, and withdraw all forces behind the Epsilon-Indy border. The war marshals bristled. One of them started to speak, but the leader held up a claw.
And if we refuse?
The leader asked. Then we have 41 more targets designated across your empire. We can be at any of them within 48 hours. You won't see us coming. You can't stop us, and you won't know we're there until your ships are already dead. Silence. We trust you now understand our language, Ferrara continued. Acknowledge. The lead war marshal's jaw worked. Ferrara could see the calculations behind his eyes, the cost of continued war, the shame of retreat, the bitter arithmetic of survival.
Acknowledged,
the war marshal said finally. Good. Formal terms will be delivered within the day. Ferrara out. The channel closed. Ferrara sat back in his chair. One of his aides approached. Sir, we've received a request from our intelligence division. They're asking about a Valkosh prisoner, a tactical analyst named Pell. Apparently he filed multiple reports predicting our response. They want to know if we should interview him. Ferrara considered. An analyst who'd seen the truth, who'd tried to warn them. Have him brought to the Provisional Government Office on Karun Lok. Tell him we're interested in hiring people who see what's coming. The aide blinked. Sir? The war's over. Now we build peace. We'll need people who understand both sides. Yes, sir. The aide left. Ferrara pulled up the casualty reports one more time. 4,000 dead. The price of courtesy. He had spent 81 years trying to avoid this moment, but now that it had arrived, he'd make sure those deaths meant something. Admiral Carmen found Ferrara in her ready room aboard the Revenant 3 days later. The ship was still in orbit over Karun Lok, coordinating the transition to Kordat administration. The Valkosh had withdrawn as agreed. The sector was quiet. Ferrara sat across from her, a glass in his hand. Carmen poured herself a drink and sat down. They had barely spoken since the battle ended. Hell of a week, Carmen said. Hell of a decade, Ferrara replied. You were right. You were right, by the way, about the fleet, about readiness. I was angry at you, at the council, at the whole situation. I thought you were hobbling us. You were supposed to think that. If the military looked strong, the Shadow Fleet wouldn't have much of a shadow. Carmen took a drink. How long were you planning this? 14 years. Since I first reviewed the Courtesy Doctrine's original framework and realized it had a flaw. It assumed everyone would eventually choose peace. But some species don't have that setting. The Valkosh, them, and half a dozen others. So I started planning for the day diplomacy failed. You knew it would fail. Ferrara met her eyes. I hoped it wouldn't, but I prepared for when it did. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the viewport, Karun Lok hung against the stars. Her captured cities lit up in human blue and white. Carmen raised her glass. To the end of courtesy. Ferrara raised his. To earning their fear. They drank. What happens now? Carmen asked. Now? Now we go home and explain to the council why we just turned the galaxy upside down. We negotiate treaties. We rebuild. We make sure this was worth it. You think it was? Ferrara thought about the Odyssey's dawn. 4,000 colonists headed for a new world, murdered because someone thought humanity was weak. Ask me in 10 years, he said. Carmen nodded. She understood. Victory was easy to measure. Peace was harder. She stood to leave, then paused. You and I, we were on different sides for a long time. We were on the same side, Ferrara corrected. We just had different roles. Maybe, Carmen smiled, just slightly. But I'm glad you had my back when it mattered. Always did, Admiral. Carmen left. Farrar stayed, staring out at the stars. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in 81 years, humanity had shown the galaxy what lay beneath its courtesy, and the galaxy would remember.